Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari 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 Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse number 5. Klesho adhikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhir avapyate. The meaning is, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So, in this particular chapter, the chapter itself started with Arjuna asking, who is more perfect? Those who worship the personal form of the Supreme Absolute Truth, or those who worship the impersonal? So Krishna's direct answer was, who is considered most perfect? Those who are worshipping the personal form. So Srila Prabhupada explains, basically there are two groups of transcendentalists or spiritualists. Those who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme are called Gyana yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti yogis. Now, the difference between Gyana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is clearly brought out here. Even though the process of Gyana Yoga ultimately leads one to the same goal as Bhakti Yoga, because the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all processes described in the scriptures are leading to that ultimate goal only. But still, here it is very clearly explained that the process of Gyana Yoga is very troublesome. On the other hand, the process of Bhakti Yoga is easier and is natural for somebody who is embodied or who has got a body, who is now presently inside, the soul is inside the body. Now, it is explained that we have been in this material world for very long time. So, this conception of a bodily form is very much deep rooted. So, to theoretically understand that I am not the body is very difficult. Therefore, in Bhakti Yoga, the deity of Krishna is worshipped, and in deity there is a conception of form. Now, in the scriptures, it is explained that worship of the deity is not idol worship. What is the difference between deity and idol? Deity is the actual form, the real form of the Supreme Lord, the spiritual form of the Supreme Lord. Whereas this idol means some imaginary form. Idol is not the real form. Idol is some concocted form. So, idol worship is totally condemned and is never to be done, whereas deity worship is authorized and it is the method of Bhakti Yoga. What is the difference between deity and idol? One more difference I can explain. Just like when we worship a deity of Krishna made of metal or stone or wood. That metal, stone or wood is matter, and Krishna is completely spiritual. So does it mean that even though Krishna is spiritual, we are trying to do something with a material form? No. Deity means the Supreme Lord is invited by a pure devotee or by the pure devotional process, authorized process, to accept worship through the form of the deity. Now the Lord agrees to accept the worship because He is all powerful. He enters that form, and after He enters, that form becomes completely spiritual. It's no longer material. The form is completely spiritual. So devotees are worshipping not a material form, but a completely transcendental or spiritual form. That is called Archa Vigraha. Archa Vigraha means the worshipable deity form which is completely spiritual. Now, idol means some imaginary form, and it is simply a material statue, that's all. There's no life. Deity is full of life. Deity is completely spiritual, is eternally living. So that's the difference. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse numbers 6 and 7 are given together. Ye tu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate teshamaham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha mayyaveshita chetasam. The translation or the meaning of both these verses is given together by Srila Prabhupada. For one who worships me, Krishna is telling Arjuna, for one who worships me, giving up all his activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, who has fixed his mind upon me, O son of Prutha, for him I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So very clearly Krishna is explaining here, devotees are very, very fortunate to be delivered very soon from material existence. Because in pure devotional service, the understanding is very simple, direct and clear. The individual soul is always subordinate to God, who is the Supreme Soul. And this is an eternal fact. The subordinate position of the individual soul, who is very, very, very tiny, is eternally a fact. God as the Supreme Soul is eternally true. So therefore, for every individual soul, for every living being, spirit soul, either the living being has to render service to Krishna through devotional service, or one will be rendering service to Maya. Because servant or to render service is the eternal fact. That is the position of every living being. So in this material world, all living beings are rendering service to Maya, indirectly serving Krishna. In the spiritual world, all devotees are directly serving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the difference. between the material world and the spiritual world. Now, this Supreme Lord can only be appreciated by devotional service. So, therefore, one should be fully devoted to the personality of Godhead. One should fix his mind upon Krishna. And in order to do this, it is described that one should actually practice chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the holy name of the Supreme Lord. The mind has got a tendency to be wandering, but that wandering nature can be completely changed to focus the attention or fix the mind fully on the Supreme Lord by taking help of the spiritual sound. This spiritual sound is very, very powerful. Maya is powerful, but spiritual sound, transcendental sound, is not different from Krishna and is supremely powerful. So therefore, the spiritual sound, if vibrated by the tongue of anybody, just simply vibrate the tongue and say Hare Krishna. That spiritual sound has to be, one has to fix one's mind on that sound. Our mind keeps wandering many places. But stopping this wandering is by chanting Hare Krishna. Now, it is not that one has to stop everything else one is doing and only then one will be able to fix the mind. No. The process is already described in the 8th chapter. Ma manusmara yudhyacha. Perform your prescribed duties, at the same time chant Hare Krishna. So this process is the best process for fixing the mind and attracting the attention of the Supreme Lord by this transcendental chanting method. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse number 8. Mayeva mana adatsva, mayi buddhin niveshaya, nivasishyasi mayeva, ata urdhvam na samshayah. The meaning is, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. So, beginning from this 8th verse till the 12th verse, Krishna will describe different levels of engaging in devotional service. This 8th verse, the beginning of this particular series of verses, 8th verse describes the topmost position of devotional service. Here Krishna says, just fix your mind upon me completely. Engage all your intelligence in me. So, this is for somebody who is engaged in devotional service in a direct relationship with Krishna. For such a person, the dormant devotion is already awakened. So this is a stage which is the perfect stage or the advanced stage. Now, such a devotee is situated on the transcendental platform, even though living in the material world, even though engaged in, externally appears to be engaged in material activities, but actually such a devotee's activities are completely spiritual. The devotee is on the transcendental platform, has nothing to do with anything material. So Srila Prabhupada explains, such a devotee who's completely absorbed his mind in Krishna, intelligence completely engaged in devotional service, such a devotee lives on the transcendental plane does not live on the material platform. And because the holy name of the Lord and the Supreme Lord are non-different, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, then Krishna and his internal energy are dancing on his tongue. See, this is the experience of such a advanced devotee. When such a devotee offers food to Krishna, Krishna directly accepts the food, and the devotee, by taking the remnants of such food offered to Krishna, becomes completely spiritualized. So this is the perfection of bhakti. But in the beginning, we may not be able to fully absorb our mind in Krishna consciousness. So in the next verse, Krishna will describe how such people who cannot fix their mind fully on the Supreme Lord Krishna, who cannot fully absorb their mind in devotional service, who cannot engage all their intelligence in Krishna consciousness, for them Krishna will describe in the next verse, and he will go on describing different lower levels for practice of bhakti, because this chapter is describing bhakti yoga or devotional service completely. In the entire chapter, this is the description. Now I'll take some questions. A boy in UP was shot dead by his classmate. He was only 14. He may not have accumulated much sin. What happens to his soul when his life ended so suddenly? So the question is, what happens to the person who was suddenly shot dead at such a young age? What happens to the soul? Now the soul is going to, according to the laws of nature, the soul is going to take another birth. Now, when somebody has been actually killed in this way, suddenly killed, then it is certainly a shocking experience for that boy who was killed suddenly. And at such time, whenever death comes, it may actually come according to what we think. Somebody dies at the age of 80 or 90 or 100. We think, oh, this person has lived his full life. But actually, in the material world, Kala is such that death always comes suddenly. Even a very old man, you can ask, are you prepared for death? Actually, they don't think about death many times. Or if they think, let death come, it's because they may be having difficulty with this body, or they may be having difficulty with doing their normal activities because of invalidity due to old age. But actually, they do not know what is death. They do not know what happens at death. Most people are in ignorance about death. This is the reality. You see, all transcendentalists inquire about death, and they hear from the authoritative source what is death. In the Bhagavad Gita, right in the beginning, Krishna has told, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhirastatra namuhyati. It's only a transcendentalist, a sober person, who has heard from the proper source or studied from the proper literature and understood that this body is different, the soul is different. The soul is the real person, I or you or any person is a soul. So that soul is changing body from childhood to youth to old age. changing body continuously. So even if somebody dies at a very young age, still the change of body is happening. A similar change of body happens at death. So if one is not prepared, then obviously one has to actually take birth again. If one is prepared for the change of body, then what happens? One is prepared to elevate oneself, at least to elevate oneself to a higher status. The best is to actually practice Krishna consciousness, and Krishna will actually take care of delivering such a person who's practicing Krishna consciousness. But somebody is not practicing Krishna consciousness, whenever death comes, they're going to change their body, and whatever has been their activities during the duration of life in that body, let's say they lived 14 years or 20 years or 50 years or 80 years or 100 years, whatever has been their activities, there is a certain mentality they have developed by the time they have to actually change their body in terms of death. So that mentality carries them to the next body. This will be explained very nicely in the 15th chapter. Shariram yadavapnoti yachapyutkramati grihitvaitani samyati vayurgandha nivashayat. So a person carries from one body, from this body to the next body, the conceptions of life, whatever has been their activities. Now, death can come any way. It is not that death coming one particular way is bad and some other way it is good. Sometimes people say, oh, he had a very peaceful death. What is peaceful death? There's nothing like peaceful death. Please don't think there is peaceful death and there is violent death. These are all our external observations. It's all external observation. The body anyway is a dead body. It is not a living. Its body is never living. The body is dead body. So what is living? It is living is the spirit soul. So when the spirit soul is forced to leave the body at the time of death, then the body, which is always dead, will, appear to be dead only. That's all. Otherwise, the spirit soul is living, and spirit soul continues to live even after leaving this body. Even when the spirit soul enters another body, the spirit soul is living. It's a living force. So, there is nothing like peaceful death. Death means, for those who are practice spiritual life, Krishna guides such a soul to leave this body and accept the next body. If one is not yet ready to go to the spiritual world, Krishna will give another opportunity for making further advancement in Krishna consciousness to reach the perfection. Otherwise, if one has reached the perfection, then one directly goes to the spiritual world in the transcendental form, in the spiritual form. So, the soul is the spiritual form, and that is developed through the process of Bhakti Yoga, through the process of devotional service. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in changing the body at the time of death, because completely guided by Krishna. Even the non-devotees actually are guided by Krishna, but Krishna is actually like an unseen, unknown person who is guiding for the non-devotees. For the devotees, Krishna is directly there because the devotee is devoted to Krishna. So directly Krishna is there. Krishna will actually guide very nicely, and the devotee simply quits this body, understanding that this body is no longer a proper place for living. So the devotee leaves the body and actually guided by Krishna goes to the next body. So in this particular case, I don't know the details of this boy. If he has practiced spiritual life, then his future is very, very, very glorious, very bright. But if he has not practiced spiritual life, then according to his karma, whatever activities he has done, and whatever karma he is carrying forward from the previous lives. It is not just one life. Karma is there from many, many lifetimes. So all that karma, accumulated karma, he takes with him to the next body, to the next life. Next question. Should we offer the bad results obtained from our work to Krishna as well? See, offering the results, actually, it's not in our hands whether the result is good or bad if we do our duty according to the scriptural directions. But if we whimsically act, or we don't follow scriptures, or we concoct our own way of doing things, then we are completely, totally responsible, and we are going to be punished by the laws of nature. So then there is no question of offering anything to Krishna. When we act whimsically or act in our own way, or we do whatever we like to do, we don't care for scriptural directions, we don't care for the laws of God. Offering the result is only meaningful or sensible if we follow the scriptural directions, if we follow the bona fide spiritual master, then we have to offer whatever the result of the activity to Krishna. Then there is no consideration of good or bad, because the devotee or the transcendentalist or spiritualist does whatever is recommended by Krishna. So Krishna is the one who will give the result. So where is question of good or bad? There is no bad result for a devotee. Everything is good. And for somebody who is a non-devotee, nothing is good. Whatever result they get is simply going to bind them. That's all. It's going to bind them in further entanglement. They're already entangled, and they're going to get entangled more and more and more. That's all. They're going to get further entangled. That's all. So there is no meaning in offering the result of a person who does not follow Krishna's instructions and advice. And for somebody who is following Krishna's instruction and advice, anyway, such a devotee understands the result doesn't belong to me, it belongs to Krishna. So he offers. Then what about his own maintenance? He is depending on Krishna under all circumstances. Krishna is my maintainer, regardless of what my duty is, or regardless of what is the result of doing some duty. Krishna is my maintainer. So Krishna will maintain me in all circumstances, all situations. That's a fact. Next question. How to destroy the shyness of chanting in front of others? Now, chanting is our natural activity. It's as natural as breathing, or eating when hungry, or drinking water when thirsty. It's as natural as that. That's our constitutional activity. That's our fundamental activity, devotional service, and in particularly in this age, chanting Hare Krishna. So if somebody feels shy because may not have practiced sufficiently, then you don't have to chant in front of others necessarily always. If you want to always keep chanting while doing your other activities, then softly or within your own mind you can chant. But actual fixed amount of chanting, a particular number of rounds as a regulative principle, has to be done a little loudly, and preferably in a place which is favorable for doing such chanting. So this shyness will go away as we actually practice chanting and understand that it's a very, very natural and very proper activity for everyone, not only for the devotees. It's meant for everyone. Chanting, calling out the name of the Supreme Lord, who's our topmost well-wisher, who's our Supreme Father, who's our maintainer, who's our, or everything. Calling out his name, where is the question of being shy? It's natural, it is necessary, it is the right thing to do. Of course, people who are in ignorance, they may not understand this, but you can educate people who are in ignorance if you try to preach to people who do not know about this chanting. Or in any case, if you practice for some time, then gradually you will come out of shyness. If we learn any useful knowledge like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam, we would forget it when we go to the next life. So how does cultivating this knowledge help? See, forgetting something we have learnt in this life is a material phenomena. The spiritual advancement is eternal. It goes with you. So it's not some mechanical remembrance or forgetfulness. That is not the point in Bhakti Yoga. The actual point of Bhakti Yoga is the spiritual advancement made, that is eternal. And one continues to perform devotional service from the advanced stage. Whatever advancement one has made, the next life one continues from that advanced stage. So there is no loss at all in devotional service in that way. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.